Before you agree to that C-section for a big baby, you might want to watch this video, especially if you would like to avoid an unnecessary C-section and find out later that your baby could have been born naturally. Hi, my name is Carly Bonderud, and this is the Cesarean Trap series where I go deep into everything that you need to know to avoid a C-section. It is part of my deep dive master classes. So if you've been following me for a while, then you know that I've gone into the natural birth traps and the essential tips that you want to know if this is your first time planning a true natural birth. So whether you are a first-time mom, a seasoned mom, a VBAC mom, whether you are just trying to get some information on how to avoid a C-section, or you've already been tricked before, and whether you've been traumatized or you've just heard the horror stories, this series is designed to help you to avoid the cesarean trap. But before I get into today's topic, which is all on how to avoid the cesarean trap for a big baby, you may want to know a little bit more about the backstory. So first of all, if you're new to me, my name is Carly Bonderud, and I am a childbirth educator and birth empowerment coach. I'm also the author of Your Empowered Birth, which is this little blue book behind me. You can get it on Amazon, or if you check the playlist of this channel, then you're going to find the entire playlist where I have basically read that book to you. Think of it as your very own free audio book. Of course, if you want to be able to highlight passages or put notes in the margins, then having a copy of your book is probably going to serve you better. I myself am a visual learner, and so I can sit and I can listen to somebody read an audiobook and I can get the gist of it. However, until I can see it in writing, it just doesn't land. And I like to be able to go back and look at it at least 3 times. There's going to be something important later on in this video about why you want to incorporate the rule of 3, especially in these deep dive master classes. So before we get started, though, I'm just going to let you know what a cesarean trap is. If you are new to me, then this is something that you're going to want to understand. If, however, you've been following me for a while, you know what a cesarean trap is. It's derived from my natural birth traps, which I talked about in chapter 1 of my book, Your Empowered Birth. So if you are already familiar with the cesarean traps and you've been following me for a while, then I'm going to just say you can skip ahead. You can go to where I start talking about the actual trap. You know the process. You know how to get the most out of these master classes. And thank you so much for being a loyal, empowered mom. Remember that a drop in the ocean creates ripples, many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. So be sure to pay this forward, pass this on to other moms in the mom groups, because I am here to ensure that every mom has an empowered birth, because every birth can and should be a beautiful and empowering experience, even a C-section, if that's actually what you need. But as you're going to find out in this video, a big baby is one of those myths that leads to more unnecessary C-sections, and it's just absolutely devastating. So what I'm going to be covering in this particular masterclass, first what I'm going to do, and again, if you have already been following me for a while, you know this, is I'm going to tell you the context of what we're really looking at here. You've already followed the natural birth traps. Go back and watch some of them in the playlist. If you are not familiar, you already know about the essential tips for planning and getting a true natural birth. You're already familiar with the idea of the cesarean traps. There is also a PDF mini list that you can download off my website, which will tell you more about what's coming up in this series. You're also going to learn in this video how the big baby myth undermines your confidence, how it sabotages you, and the red flags that you're going to want to look out for as your care provider can be grooming you, or someone close to you, or even in the mom groups could be slowly chipping away at your confidence. Sometimes our own fears can even be the enemy. So I want to debunk the big baby myth. I'm going to share some inspiring stories of empowered moms who have had big babies at home, even unassisted, even basically recognizing that their bodies work and be like, you know what, this baby was bigger than the one that I had the C-section for. And understanding that a big baby in itself is not a problem. I'll share some additional resources that you'll want to check out. And I will close off by giving you some tips on how to apply the empowered birth method, which is my own signature way of helping you take your power back, no permission needed, so that you can go into your birth feeling confident that if you do choose a C-section, it's your choice. You didn't fall into a cesarean trap. Finally, I'll finish off with the 3 paths to empowered birth so that if you are wanting to go deeper, you know the resources to go and get your hands on. And I will give you the recap of everything we learned. So don't worry, even if you're taking notes during this and you're like, wait, I don't know if I've got all the important parts, I will highlight the best parts for you. I'm also going to draw attention to the description of this video, especially if you're new to me. You're going to want to know about this. You know, a lot of videos, they have fluff. That's not what I do here with the deep dive masterclasses. Each masterclass eventually gets turned into a transcript. So check the description to see if a transcript is available. If it's not, you can always direct your questions inside the comments, or what you can do is reach out to myself and my team at hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I also have more resources for you on my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com, and a complete starter guide that will help you recognize where you are in your journey, whether you're a first-time mom, a seasoned mom, a VBAC mom, and I'll tell you the top resources that you're going to want to get your hands on. Most of them are completely free because here at Empowering Moms, information is free and I only charge for access to me. So if you're wanting a whole bunch of birth education and you want to make sure that you avoid a cesarean, then you're going to love the Cesarean Trap series. I'm also going to mention that with this particular series, this is a redo of something that I started way back in 2022. So there is another set of videos that you can go and find in the archives. I will link it below for you until this series is over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close up shop on those shorter videos, maybe put them behind another little playlist for you to find in the rabbit hole. But this one's going to go deeper. What I did during this 5 video series is I went into all 21 of the cesarean traps and I broke them up over the course of those 5 videos. So there's about 5 traps per series, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. And this series is actually responsible for inspiring one of my clients, Dee Dee, to have a vaginal birth after 3 previous C-sections. She binge watched this series and then she went on and she's like, you know what? I am not letting them trick me into another C-section now that I know all 21 of these traps. So if you are a little impatient and you're like, you know what? I kind of want to get the overview. I don't have a lot of time to wait for the next several months as these videos drop 1 per week. And I want to get the overview of it now and I want to get help now. Then I'm going to invite you to just go and check out that earlier series. It's not as polished. There's no empowered birth method applications to it. And at the same time, if you do have those questions, you can always reach out to me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Okay, so now that you know the overview of how to get the most out of this masterclass, and check out some previous videos to know even more about that if you're stuck. If you are new to me, definitely check out the Essential Tips series and check out the Natural Birth series because this one builds on it. And also, if you aren't familiar with my book, Your Empowered Birth, that is the baseline education. And I would recommend that you read at least the first 5 chapters of that book. And if you are also looking to create your birth plan, then you're going to want to also apply the second half of the book, which is essentially you go through a process that I outlined in chapter 5 for your own unique empowered birth experience. In each section, there are journaling questions that you are going to want to answer. And at the end of it, you have your roadmap to empowered birth. All right. So Now we're going to dive right into the question. What is the big baby trap? Why are we so cautious about it? Well, let me put it this way. If you are either a small built person, like I'm not very big, I'm about 110 pounds soaking wet, and I get to about 140 once I'm pregnant. So I had very tiny hips, and people would often say, well, because your partner is very tall, you're going to have massive babies. And my mother-in-law at the time had also said to me, well, his head was massive. He was a massive baby. His sister was a massive baby. I don't know if you're going to be able to push out my son's massive babies. Spoiler alert, I did. And my babies were almost 8 pounds, both of them. One, it took 3 hours of pushing. There's a reason around that, and it is outlined inside of your empowered birth. I will go into it a little bit during this video. And the second one, though, same size, basically. And she shot out like a little torpedo into the water at home. So, you don't have to fear a big baby. I can also tell you that if you have been in any mom groups, you've probably already seen this. Moms go in and they say that they have had their growth scan. They're 36 weeks. Their doctor is saying that their baby is already X pounds, and they're now freaking out because they think that their baby is getting too big. They think they have to induce. Induction in itself is actually a serious trap. It is one of the natural birth traps in my 20 trap series, and big baby is also an induction trap. In fact, some of the resources that I'm going to be telling you about in this video are going to tell you more about the big baby from the side of induction, not the side of C-section. The reason big baby is such a cesarean trap is because if your care provider does not trust you to birth your baby thinking that it's going to be big, they are undermining your confidence. And then you're thinking you're going to have a longer labor. You think that you're not going to be able to push your baby out. And you're going to think that you are either going to need to induce or have a C-section. The longer you stay pregnant, the more this anxiety weighs on you. The more you start to question, am I even going to be able to push this baby out? Maybe I should induce. Maybe I should agree to that C-section, even if you didn't want one. Now, let me just tell you something. You can't go back and undo a C-section. Even if it's your first one, even if it is completely uncomplicated, there are consequences to having a C-section. In fact, if you go and check out some of my other videos and watch some of the interviews of my past clients and some past C-section moms who took their power back with home births and VBACs, then you'll understand the trauma that they have had, even just from one C-section, because they recognize that it didn't have to happen. One of my friends, Christine, who I've talked about inside Your Empowered Birth, and you can go and check out her interview, was basically thinking, well, I had a straightforward C-section, but then she had dense adhesions that have basically plagued her and caused a lot of pain. Endometriosis is also another complication of a C-section, and it's very common, but it's not linked because as far as they're concerned, once you leave their practice at 6 weeks, you're somebody else's problem. They don't see the long-term implications of a C-section. Now, that's just the physical side. What about the emotional and the mental toll that a C-section carries on you? What about the fact that you didn't want the C-section in the first place? And if you're planning to have more babies, now you have another obstacle because you're not just having a natural birth, you're having a VBAC, or at least attempting to. But then you have a whole other side where people are telling you not to do it. They're telling you that it's safer to just schedule a C-section. They undermine your confidence and they basically have you thinking maybe I should just schedule a C-section just in case. There will be more on this in future videos within this series. because again, I am here to help you avoid a C-section that you really, really don't want. I mean, be honest with yourself. Do you really want to have the C-section, or are you just afraid of what's going to happen if that big baby causes the problems that people say that they're going to cause? Well, that is why I'm going to debunk those myths right now. So what you really need to understand, first of all, with the red flags, I'm just going to quickly recap on that, is that if somebody is telling you that a big baby can't be born naturally, that it's going to be more painful, that you're going to tear, that it's going to be a horrible tear at that, like 3rd degrees, or that the baby is going to get stuck. Shoulder dystocia is one of those very common things that people throw out there, or uterine rupture if you've already had one or more C-sections. All of these things can combine and then lead to you feeling fearful. If somebody is saying that you need to go for growth scans to see how big your baby is getting, or they tell you that you need to induce by a certain point in your pregnancy to avoid your baby getting too big, or they tell you that your pelvis is not really proven or it's too small, and you believe that story, and you hear it over and over from your OB, you hear it over and over out in the mom groups that the baby just didn't fit through the pelvis, and that's why I had to have a C-section. You know, there is a lot of nuance into that, and I could go deeper. However, at the same time, I don't have the ability to do that with this video. If you do have questions, you can always put it in the comments and I will address them. And if it's urgent, I encourage you to reach out to me and my team, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. We have a vast library of resources that I have gathered over the last 10 plus years as a birth advocate and educator. I also am in connection with a lot of other birth workers. Some you might know, some you might not. And at the same time, they have their own resource libraries. I'm constantly adding to my Empowered Birth community, which is a private Facebook group combined with an email newsletter. So if you are not part of the Empowered Birth community, I'm going to encourage you to join. All you have to do to get started is go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit, put your name and email in, and then what's going to happen is you're going to get invited into a vast community of moms who are learning just like you. Not only that, but you're going to get access to my deep dive newsletter, which every single week I share a segment on empowered birth wisdom and empowered mom magic, how to apply the empowered birth method in other areas of your life. Because when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take your power away from you again. So the fear with big baby has basically come from the obstetric community, and it's because they don't understand how birth actually works. You see, there's a difference between physiological birth, which is what our bodies are designed to actually carry out, versus the medical model of birth, where they have moms on their backs, they try to rush the process, and in the end, they wonder why things aren't working the way that they thought they would. Well, that is because when obstetrics was first invented, it was in the industrial age when, first of all, women didn't have any agency. Second of all, they had phased out the midwives over the centuries with the witch hunts. And third of all, the doctors basically wanted to pull every single baby out with forceps. Yeah, that is pretty much it. They pulled every single baby out with forceps, and that allowed them to get more money into their pockets. But then babies started to get stuck because the moms were on their backs, and because the moms were on their backs, the pelvic outlet is naturally narrowed when you are on your back, especially if you spread your legs wide apart. This is not physiological birth. And yet 99% of births in the hospital happen with moms on their back, sometimes with their legs in the air, sometimes not. It is no wonder to me and no mystery to me why it took 3 hours to push my son out. Because when I was dragged to that bed, and I didn't want to get onto that bed, but to lean over it and squat down, they said firmly, as if I was a child, no. And then my former partner picked me up, put me on the bed, and then at that point, I was stuck on my back. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get onto hands and knees. So then I'm basically pushing a baby uphill. Go and watch one of my other videos in the Natural Birth Trap series where I talk about how birthing on your back is a natural birth trap to get the full overview of what this actually does. And then in addition to that, we also now have Pitocin. Pitocin speeds up labor, but it doesn't allow the body to unfold the process properly. And then this also leads to babies getting stuck. Again, I've done this in the Empowered Birth series inside of the Natural Birth Traps. So go check out that playlist if you are not familiar with that video. So when you understand the context of this, you understand that big baby is not inherently a problem, but how they approach delivery of a big baby. And babies aren't even meant to be delivered, they're meant to be birthed. You're meant to go with your instincts. What this does is it leads to unnecessary fear because fish can't see the water they swim in. So if you have grown up all your life where your mother told you that you were a big baby, or your mother-in-law says that your partner was big, or you hear it out in the community that babies were big and they got stuck, but you don't understand this physiological context, what this does is this puts unnecessary fear into you because you don't have that context and you don't understand that maybe there was something in that birth experience that they are not aware is not physiological birth that led to the baby getting stuck. You now think, oh, babies get stuck if they're too big. And the medical system, not all of them are out there to just do a C-section. They just don't understand that there are two sides to natural birth. And the medical side of natural birth is not natural. It's the fake kind. It's the preservative-laden frozen dessert. Go check out my Empowered Birth Start Guide on my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide to learn more about that. Because I did go into the difference between natural birth and true natural birth. The Empowered Birth method to allow you to avoid a C-section and get your best chance of a natural birth is to aim for true natural birth and then pull back only as much as needed. So this basically means that you have your backup plans, you're aware of the things that could possibly happen, but you're not going to focus on them because your body is designed to birth. We just have to get out of the way. We have to stop assuming that something bad is going to happen. It's all programming. And if you're not familiar, then you're going to want to check out my Reset Your Mindset for Empowered Birth mini challenge because that goes into it a lot deeper. Now, before we wrap up, I'm going to also let you know about additional resources because, with the cesarean traps, you really need to be able to apply two things, and that is your mindset about it. You need to make sure that you are feeling confident that you can birth this baby with or without help. That even if this baby is naturally big, you grow big, healthy babies, and your pelvis is going to support that. There are two different kinds of pelvises, ample, and you can fit a pony through there, honey. So make sure that you check out some of the other videos inside of my Natural Birth Traps and Essential Tips series, because that is going to help boost your confidence over time. And the more videos that you binge, or if you go through my self-study path, more on that in a minute, then what's going to happen is that you're not going to be in fear anymore. You can't make an informed decision if you're in fear. So you need to make sure that you are past your fear, or at least have it under control, so that you can then get the second piece, which is the education, and pick it apart. Because it's not enough to just get information. You also need to know where that information is coming from, where there might be biases, and where there might be pieces missing. There are limitations to research. First of all, if they are researching something, that's birth in captivity. And all you have to do is think about other mammals and be like, Is this really how mammals labor in the wild, or is this how they labor when they are under bright lights and being observed? Because a watched pot does not boil, and a watched birth does not unfold the same way as if you didn't feel like you had to perform. So, the further you are away from the idea that you have to be watched and managed and controlled during your birth in order for it to be safe, the more power you actually hold to call in support when you need it, not when the medical system and our society dictates that you have to have it. And that will allow you naturally to be a little bit more curious and be able to advocate strongly for yourself so that you don't fall into the big baby trap. But if you are still a little bit curious and you want to know more about the scientific side of it, then that is where I'm going to give you the resources. Number 1 on my list is Labor Induction, Why, When, and How by Hensi Goer. In this one, she has actually addressed the big baby and induction myth. And again, as I mentioned before, induction often leads to an unnecessary C-section that could have otherwise been prevented. And often what happens is if your care provider is automatically pushing a C-section for a big baby, then they don't even know if that baby is big. And they may be a category 5 care provider. Go check out one of my other videos inside of the Natural Birth Trap series to learn more about how to spot and conquer the category 5 care provider, because they are the ones that really just want to do a C-section because it makes them more money, that it pushes you through the system, and they don't really want to support natural birth. So the more that they can undermine your confidence and scare you into compliance and getting a C-section, the more they have the power. But if you know that a C-section is not necessary for a big baby, that you may not even be having a big baby, that it could just be a lie, and you could go in for that C-section and find out your baby's only 6 pounds, the more power you actually carry, the less they can scare you. And you avoid that C-section that they were really trying to push on you. The other side of it, though, is that there's the care provider that says, well, let's induce to avoid you having the big baby so that you don't get the C-section that you don't want. Or let's do the C-section because you are trying to have a VBAC, but your baby's too big, so I won't allow it. Or the same thing for breech. They have no idea that that baby is actually big. Go check out one of my other videos where I talked about growth scans. It's one of the first ones inside of the Empowered Birth Series Natural Birth Traps. You'll learn more about how that trap manifests and how to get out of it. So the next one that you're going to want to check out, because it's not just enough to get one source. It can be helpful to get multiple perspectives. And another really good one that I can recommend to you is In Your Own Time by Dr. Sarah Wickham. In fact, she has an entire chapter on big babies as well, titled Does My Baby Look Big in This? And she goes into multiple different ways that this research is not evidence-based so that you can then make an informed decision. I would also recommend Rebecca Decker, Evidence-Based Birth. You can go and check out her articles. She does have one for the evidence of induction and C-section for big babies, so go and check that out. Finally, we also have Why Induction Matters by Rachel Reed. I just love Rachel Reed's work so much because she really goes into the scientific side. She also has a deep physiological birth perspective similar to Hensi Goer, and she ties in the historical context. She also brings in real stories of real women into this particular book. So I would suggest that these 3 books are going to help you understand more about the big baby myth. There are others, and there are so many resources that could be found on big babies, but these 3 are the ones that I would basically say start with them, because not only does it cover the big baby myth, but also a lot of other things in the induction traps that lead to cesarean traps. So you have some additional resources and you know a little tiny bit about the empowered birth method and teasers and how to apply the method. So again, you're going to want to get past your fear. If you have a fear of a big baby, you need to get over that fear. You need to recognize that big babies can be birthed safely at home. If you really want a very positive natural birth story, then go and check out my interview that I did with Claire Sherman of Shine Space Parenting, because she actually had a home birth after cesarean with type 1 diabetes, and her baby was 11 pounds. Yes, there's a little tiny shoulder dystocia, and at the same time, it was resolved easily at home. Whereas if Claire had gone to the hospital, she has already said to me multiple times, I know exactly what they would have tried to do. It would have been way more traumatic, and they probably would have pushed me into another C-section, or they would have ruined my natural birth. But because Claire had the empowered birth method, she'd been in our community for a while, she was able to confidently go in and plan and get her own empowered birth with her second baby. She did not get pushed into another C-section, and she had an 11-pounder. So you know that VBAC with an 11-pound baby is possible, especially if they are born at home. Even with type 1 diabetes, it is a possibility for you. Now, I'm not saying that you can just go off and do this. I'm saying if you have something in your intuition that tells you that you don't need to have a C-section, and you're just looking for a confirmation to tell you what you already feel in your body after you've gotten past your fear, then yes, it is actually possible. And you can make a plan around that. And at the same time, if something comes up and your intuition is now telling you, no, I think we need to do something differently. Maybe it might be appropriate for me to schedule a C-section. That's okay too. The point is that you need to be doing this from a place of power instead of a place of fear, and it deserves to be your choice, not the choice of the medical system or limitations of options or not knowing what you could actually have in your birth, because everyone around you is telling you it can't be done. Maybe you're the first one. Maybe you're the pioneer. You never know. That's why the empowered birth method exists. And I have 3 paths to getting the empowered birth method. Number 1 is the do-it-yourself path, which you are already on. You have been watching this deep dive masterclass. Congratulations to getting to the end. If you're already familiar, you know where to go. You can go and skip to the recap. You know what our 3 paths are. You know what the resources are. You can always go and check out the deep dive newsletter if you are already a member of our empowered birth community. And if you are not, be sure to check out that empowered birth toolkit, because that is the deepest layer of do-it-yourself, where you can take every single piece of my magic and you can put together your own map to empowered birth. Information is free, and I only charge for access to me and my team. That means that I don't hide any of the information that I teach behind a paywall. I will tell you exactly how to apply the empowered birth method. I will tell you all of the secrets of the empowered birth method. In fact, when you put your name and email in to get that toolkit, you will instantly get directed to a masterclass that teaches the 9 secrets to the empowered birth method so that you can get on the right track. I also teach you how to get the most out of your empowered birth toolkit and the newsletter. I give you 7 days of empowered mom magic emails that come into your inbox and weave more into what the empowered birth method is, how it can help you. Not only that, but how you can apply it in other areas of your life. Because again, when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take your power away from you again. I've put my book out for free. You can also get it on Amazon, because I believe that if you're going to invest in something, you deserve to know what you're investing in. And if you want access to me, or if you want a little piece of my magic for yourself, then that is when you jump in and you get my book. You can pass it on to others. You can highlight passages of it. You can dog ear the pages, mark it up. It's okay. And if you would rather just have a nice pristine copy, I like to keep my books neat. You can also just do what I do with my books, which is take little Post-it notes and then stick them in between the pages. In fact, one book I have done this to already, and I've done this to several of them, is Cynthia Gabriel's book, Natural Hospital Birth. I even did an interview with her on my channel. You can go and check that out. And, this is how you're able to get more out of your books. So I'm going to encourage you again. You can go and listen to Your Empowered Birth if you're not already familiar. You can go and get a copy of your own, mark it up, or get a whole bunch of Post-it notes. If you are a content creator yourself and there's anything that inspires you that you want to build off of, you can go and do that as well. Just make sure you credit me, because that's how we all rise together. I believe that collaboration is key. I believe that a drop in the ocean creates ripples. Many ripples together create the waves. Enough waves can change the tide. And I'm all about that here at Empowering Moms. Again, you can learn more on my starter guide. Go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. So again, if you're going to do the do-it-yourself path, all I ask is that you pay it forward. Like, share, subscribe to this channel, comment, ask questions, get the most out of your empowered birth education. I do read every single comment that comes in on the videos, and I also have my empowered birth community. Sometimes this is through the Facebook group. I can't guarantee that that's going to still be around. Meta changes things. I don't own that platform. However, to get top access to me and know what's coming up and any changes that are being made in the community, or how to get closer into the action so that you have the support you need, you just sign up for the Empowered Birth newsletter. Again, empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit. The next path is self-study. Now, there are two layers to this. One is complete self-study. You go through a course or program and you get the overview. Technically, my book is also self-study. You can send questions in either inside of the Empowered Mom Community Facebook group or wherever we happen to be at the time. And you can also ask questions directly through email. Just go hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Somebody will support you. Absolutely. We will get back to you within 3 to 5 business days if you are not already a subscriber of our newsletter. The faster path, if you are a subscriber, is to hit reply to any one of our weekly emails. And then we will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days, because we know that you are a VIP do-it-yourselfer or VIP self-study subscriber, and we will make sure that you get the help you need. If you go in and you get VIP self-study, that is when you also get access to our laser coaching. This is 15 minutes where you can basically say, help, I'm stuck, or it's for graduation. And then we make sure that you've gone through the program and that you have all the steps you need. And if there's one piece missing, we're like, you know what? You would also benefit from this. We would make sure that you had those pieces. You can also ask questions and send emails in and get more access to the team. So you're not paying for information, you're paying for access. And the deeper layers are, of course, path number 3, premium coaching. We don't take on everyone into our classes. We don't take on everyone as clients in our coaching programs. We reserve these for the moms who are willing to do the work. We reserve these for the moms that already want to invest in themselves at the higher levels. We are very committed to you having your empowered birth, especially as one of our premium coaching clients. I will move mountains to ensure that my clients have the best of the best. That is why they get the results that they get. That is why Claire was able to get the birth experience that she wanted, because she went through our self-study programs and she reached out for support. And so she ended up getting her home birth after cesarean. Jenny, of course, is the star student. She not only went into our Empowered Birth program, she literally helped co-found it. She told me, Carly, how do I take your classes? Jenny had been tricked out of her natural birth. She had had a traumatic induction turned C-section. She thought her body was broken. She was never going to have another baby. She just didn't want this to happen to any other moms. And then through what I was teaching her, she said, that's it. How do I take your classes? I didn't have any at the time. I didn't have a program. I was just sharing this stuff. And together we built it. We brought our students in. And since that day, we've had amazing results in our community. Your Empowered Birth could not have been written the way that it was if not for Jenny. So I'm just going to let you know that there are paths that you can take, even if you cannot pay me directly. Drops in the ocean and the ripples and the payment methods, it's an energetic exchange. The more you show up in the community, the more you're going to get noticed. You may be elevated into my coaching queens, especially if you happen to have a business of your own. I am constantly looking for those women that I can support, the moms who have the big dreams, the ones of running their own empires of influence, or at least getting their message out there, writing books, creating businesses. You know, even as moms, we have so much that we can offer the world. And when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life. So many of my VBAC clients who have gone on and had their empowered births, then go to that next level in some way, some form. They are inspired. Jenny herself has two businesses, the Birth House Network and Empress Birthworks, that are directly tied into her empowered birth. And she has other avenues that she's working on. Claire Sherman, she has Shine Space Parenting, and she's also going deeper with it. And, you know, when you think about that, when you think about the possibilities that can open up for you just by taking your power back, that is really what the message of Empowered Birth is. I am committed to you having an empowered birth, whether you invest money or time, and no matter what the level that you're at. So please reach out, invest in yourself at whatever level that is. I am supporting you. I am clapping for you. And you know, I only charge for access to me. So you just reach out at your level and you'll get the support. At the same time, if you want to actually go deep with me, there is a price tag for that because I don't work for free. I don't put out my coaching because what I'm doing with you directly, right now you're watching this video. Right now you're getting this. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much here and I'm taking all of the notes. But you also have questions. You're also wondering, how does this apply in my exact situation? And you know, you can ask me a question, but I don't have the context. And the thing about coaching is that it is a much deeper relationship. By the time I get a mom on a call for a coaching session, I have already had her work through a workbook. So this is why self-study exists, and this is why the do-it-yourself path exists, and this is why the toolkit exists. Because I'm going to expect you to have that baseline so that I can do with you what I did with Rebecca. When she came to me and asked me to look over her birth plan, she'd gone through my signature Empowered Birth workshop, which is part of the self-study path. It's one of the entry-level points. You put your name and email in, you get that course, you go through it, you add to your workbook, and then at the end of that whole program, you have the option of either upgrading to self-study VIP or just continuing on your empowered birth journey and asking questions as needed. And you can schedule as many laser coaching sessions as you would like, because the fact is that if you are paying for those sessions, then you're going to get that support. I am committed to you getting that support. I'm committed to you having an empowered birth. And when you do that work in the beginning, like Rebecca did, then what I can do is I can look over your birth plan. I can look over your strategy. I can look over your situation. And I can do that all before we even get on that call. So by the time I get on that call with you, or one of my coaching queens gets on that call with you, if I've directed you to her, then what that's going to do is they already know you, or I already know you. I already have that overview of who you are and what you're looking for. And I can say, I see this. Can you tell me more about that? And then you say, oh, I didn't even think to put that part in. It's like, well, this is actually relevant to what you're wanting to do now. And I can see this for you, and I can see this for you. And I can actually reflect that back to you. So please, whatever level you're at, I want you to take this as seriously as if you had paid for it. Pay it forward as well. So these master classes are meant to be devoured. You can also watch them 3 times, because the first time you watch it, you may have been like, oh my gosh, this is all new information. The second time you watch it, you're going to get those aha moments. And the third time, that's when you're ready to implement. So again, if you are on the do-it-yourself path, you just pay it forward. You keep watching these videos. Consider subscribing to the newsletter. Get the Empowered Birth Toolkit, and take advantage of the free birth education. Because here at Empowering Moms, I'm committed to you having your empowered birth. If, however, you like more structure, I have carefully created my self-study programs so that not only are we tackling your fears, not only are you getting the education that you really need to get to the level that you need to get to have your empowered birth, and not only do you have the typical advocacy tips, but you're also going to psychologically reprogram yourself away from relying on experts, because it's self-study. I don't want you to have to rely on me. I don't want you to have to send a million questions in. I want you to be able to be like, you know what? I know how to find this. I know how to go and get what I need. And if I need some clarity, I can ask that question, and I can invest my money in that class or that coaching session, or even go into deeper coaching in their programs, or even working with me directly. But again, I'm very, very careful who I take on as a client. What this will do for you is that you'll be able to apply this in other areas of your life, because your money, your time, your energy is precious, and you deserve to invest it wisely. You don't need to go and get a million courses. You don't need to go and get a million books. You just need to find the right ones for you. And again, I talk about this more inside of Your Empowered Birth when I talk about the right education and the right support. I also talk about it a little bit in the right facilitators. So make sure you understand the Empowered Birth method inside and out, because that is going to be the baseline education and context to help set you free. Because here at Empowering Moms, I believe you are your own best expert. I'm simply imparting the information. I'm simply the one who is reflecting it back to you. I'm giving you the context. I'm sharing what I know. And if you get deeper with me in connection, I will see more magic in you than you have ever been told that you had in yourself before, or maybe you overlooked it. And at the same time, I'm also going to hold space for you. You can fall apart on these calls. A lot of my clients have sat there and just ranted about what happened to them in their previous birth experiences. And they're like, I'm so sorry. I mean, I know we were supposed to work on something else. Like, no, this is part of the process. We can work on that in our next session. Right now, you need to get this out. You need to get this out, because that fire that's in that is going to fuel you. And it does, because then my clients come back to me the next week after having had that session, and they're like, you know what? In the time that you and I were talking, and then I went off and I did my own thing, and I had you on WhatsApp and everything, I was able to go and tell my care provider, I'm not having that C-section. And I was able to confidently do it. I was so worried. Like, I don't need to worry about how to do it now. I did it. And I'm like, yay, you're ahead of schedule. I knew you'd figure it out. Because really, what coaching is seeing the path for you and being able to get you to where you want to go. The magic is already inside of you. And that's why I don't hold anything back, because not every mom who comes to me is going to be able to get access to me. Not every mom is going to be able to afford the prices that I have for coaching. Not every mom is going to be right for self-study. Not every mom is going to be right for a premium coaching program where they are not going to have the time to sit on those classes and do the work. But every mom deserves to have an empowered birth, and you deserve to have an empowered birth. So pick your path, Queen, and all paths lead to where you want to go in your empowered birth journey. If you have any questions, if you'd like any resources, put your questions in the comments and I will get back to you. If it's urgent, email me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Okay, so now you know the 3 paths. Let's quickly recap, okay? So what is the big baby trap? Well, that is when your care provider tells you that you are either having a big baby or you have a small pelvis or that you've had a history of big babies, or your mother-in-law or your mother tries to tell you that babies are really massive and they get stuck in your family, and you're now worried that you're going to have a C-section. Maybe your care provider has already said, let's just schedule a C-section so this baby can come out safely because this baby is too big. Or maybe they're just suggesting an induction. Maybe they're saying, if your baby's not out by X number of days, then we're going to do an induction because they're going to get too big. Whatever you're actually facing, or maybe you faced it in the past, the whole result is the same. You go in, you have that C-section, or you have that induction that leads to a C-section, or just even a really traumatic birth that you didn't want to have that almost led to a C-section, because you know that can happen too, where you didn't get the C-section, but feeling that fear that it could have been a C-section if not for something else that saved you. In my case, I came very close to being told that I was going to have a C-section. I remember lying on that bed and trying to push my baby out for 3 hours and thinking, oh my gosh, it's true. My pelvis is too small. I'm not going to be able to get this baby out. And they have me on my back. I'm not going to be able to get this baby out. I might as well just give up now. They're going to call a C-section. They have OBs outside my door. I can sense it. They're not going to let me keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I can't get them out. And I felt that. I was waiting for them to just say, you know what? It's not working. You're going to have a C-section. And then something inside of me sparked to life because I had recognized I'd gone down that path and I thought, what happens if I actually give in? What happens if I actually give in? And I'm like, no, that's not happening. It's not happening. And that's how I was able to have my natural birth. And again, you can go and check that out in my book. It is inside of chapter 3, A Harsh Lesson. And it's really what I understand is you don't even have to have had a C-section yet to understand the fear and the trauma that comes when they say that you can't push your baby out because they're too big. And the medical system really does undermine your confidence. Our society is built on this trauma around big baby. So yeah, your confidence is going to be undermined, and those are going to be the things that are most likely going to come up. The next thing, of course, is avoid the growth scans, because that's going to reinforce the idea that your baby is big. Go check out my other video on the Natural Birth Trap series on growth scans to know that that is not true. And remember to apply the empowered birth method, get past your fear, understand the realities of big baby inside and outside of the system, Because the truth is that women have given birth to 10-pound and 11-pound babies at home, some unassisted, some with help from a midwife, and nothing bad happened. And they are not big women. They are tiny women, tiny like me. So recognize the big baby itself is not the problem. It's the way that we have been taught to think about the big baby. And that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Cesarean Traps. Thank you so much for watching. If you have been loving this video, please like, share, subscribe, pay it forward. If you have any questions, put them inside the comments. Ask questions inside of our group if you have access to that Facebook community or wherever we happen to be at the time. Our Empowered Birth newsletter will also help you, because you're going to get that Empowered Mom Magic. You're going to get the Empowered Birth Toolkit. And if you have any questions or you just want to know what is up in the Empowered Birth community or what we are working on, our services, the mistakes that you're making as a first-time mom, a seasoned mom, a VBAC mom, how to get your true natural birth and avoid a C-section or a repeat C-section, then you're going to want to check out our starter guide, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. The website itself is designed to be another library resource hub outside of YouTube because it's a space I own. It's a space that I can actually protect. Nobody can censor it on me. So make sure you're also checking that out, because sometimes platforms change. Sometimes algorithms change. Sometimes we have to change our plans if we want to get the results that we want. And I am committed to Empowered Birth always being available to you. So if you go to my website, you will get the details. If you sign up for the newsletter, you will always have an ability to connect with me deeper. All right, so thank you so much. Next in our series will be the small baby, which is the cesarean trap that I almost fell into. But because of the questions that I asked, I was able to get out of it and avoid that C-section. So that's coming up next in the Cesarean Trap series. Remember, you can also check out the essential tips and you can check out the natural birth traps. We have so much here at Empowering Moms. As I said, I am committed to your empowered birth journey. Every birth can and should be a beautiful and empowering experience. You are not disposable. You deserve to avoid a C-section or repeat C-section. You don't have to go through major abdominal surgery to birth your baby unless that actually feels appropriate for you. And I am committed to helping you do that. So thank you so much again. Have a happy, empowered birth journey. Whether you're birthing a baby, birthing a business, or a new creative project, or rebirthing a new version of yourself, Empowering Moms is here for you. And I will see you soon. Namaste.